Sugarcane can be placed in water. We can place saplings anywhere. The sugarcane, we can only put it directly next to water. And then we can do this. If we try to place a sapling, it gets broken. In the flowing fluid class, Mojang is specifically disallowing sugarcane here. We're going to do our own logic which allows sugarcane. So with this one change, we can see the exact same behavior with saplings and with sugarcane. Watch out, it's about to get weird. The issue we're looking at is ghost recipes. We don't have the ingredients for this. Normal behavior, if we throw something in, it clears the ghost recipe. If we have this ghost recipe and we shift click, it still keeps smelting the item that we threw in, but we still see the ghost recipe when it really shouldn't be happening. When we expand this do click method, it's going to be over 200 lines long. This method is ridiculously long. We take it down to just the quick craft, that's over 60 lines. And then the other else statements handle different kinds of input and very specific number inputs. Let's reset the quick craft here, and let's make sure to reset the quick craft here, and don't forget to reset the quick craft here. Don't forget to reset the quick. There's another section to get lost in that also handles quick moving logic. When we're quick moving, we did it from our inventory into the container menu. So the slot index that we're using would be something like 15. So if we didn't click on one of the input slots, then we're going to check, could we smelt the item? And if we can smelt the item, then we're going to move it into the input slot. Otherwise, we check if it's fuel, and if it is fuel, we move it to the fuel slot. So the item gets into the inventory of the blast furnace as it should. At the end of this, we're doing slot.setChanged, and setChanged is called on a regular slot. It calls to setChanged on the container. Abstract furnace block entity is the superclass of the blast furnace block entity itself, and it calls to setChanged in block entity, which is a static method, and that calls to block entity changed at that world position, which marks it as unsaved. In the server player class, we have a container synchronizer, which is a whole lot to get into. It's going to do a client bound container set slot packet or some of these other client bound packets. In client packet listener, we receive client bound container set slot packet, and we're directly setting the item in the slot. But the problem is that there's no code to actually clear the ghost recipes in this logic. And you can see broadcast changes being called and synchronize slot to remote. And you see how the synchronizer sends send slot change. If we look for implementations, the only one is an anonymous in server player. You can see how that's loaded here back to the cache that we were talking about in the beginning. What's funnier is that we actually have a client bound packet to do this. Do you know all of this was happening in the background? Yeah, that's the thumbnail. That's the thumbnail. What am I looking at? Did you know that carved pumpkin can make you invisible on a map? This one's pretty straightforward. If we toggle between the debug screen, you see that the debug crosshair is actually being hid behind the map. The 3D crosshair gets hidden behind held map, unlike the normal crosshair. There's a lot to look at here, from item in hand renderer calling to map renderer's render method, which we can see here, and the translates that are happening, and also the translate happening for the render 3D crosshair, which is going back -1 in the z-axis. What if we just don't translate it? Now we're not seeing the debug crosshair at all. Let's try doing it only half as much. Now we have it rendering on top of the map as expected. And we can look around, and it's still lining up with everything around us in the world. I just tamed my horse and I got best friends forever. I was reading in the patch notes that tamed horses no longer run into cacti or sweetberry bushes. So let's try it. Oh my god. This was created November 26th, the day after this pre-release came out. And I'm in 26.1 Snapshot 1. In sweetberry bush block, if an entity is inside of this block, they're going to be slowed down, and then they're going to be hurt on the server, on the logical side. The only entities this strictly does not happen to is a fox and a bee. Even if we follow the logic for hurt server, the override in abstract horse has nothing to do with sweetberries here. The damage source is literally sweetberry bush. We also have a 100 line method for hurting on the server. Under this involves horses being damaged by sweetberry bushes. Why are there so many issues with horses? If I turn on my hitbox, you can kind of see that if I'm turning really fast, you can see how it's going to collide with the sweetberry bush anyway. You can kind of see how my hitbox is still going to collide with the sweetberry bush, but the horse itself, the horse is not being damaged, even if we go like just next to it like this. Rabbits are not scared of certain monsters. This is basically a 2-for-1 because worried pandas are not scared of certain monsters either, which is the exact same list. If we look at the code for rabbits and look at the goals, it's afraid of players, wolves, and monsters. Monster only includes this selection of entities. If we instead used enemy, it would resolve against these classes. I'm not really sure if we can consider this one a bug. In the code, when lightning or thunder is hitting a pig, there's actually conversion parameters, which include keeping the equipment, and this is directly set to false. I would probably just directly drop the saddle from the pig first before it's converted.
This one's also pretty straightforward, I found. Gliding into powder at certain angles damages the player on impact. And essentially, yeah, if the difference is too great, then you're going to be damaged. We're going to try to fly through this. We get slowed down and then we keep going as expected. Try at a steeper angle. And we kind of just crash off to the side. We could try to walk through how Minecraft is doing a collision check. Personally, I might just look for the block that we're colliding with, and then if it is powder snow, skip the check there. But that could lead into other weird instances where maybe you start phasing into other blocks or find some way to put powder snow in a weird place. So this might be the best solution. Depends on what Mojang's goal is with Elytra flight and powder snow. We're allowed to go through it at some angles, but not at other angles, but that's just a default thing. That's default behavior at this point. Hand animation no longer plays when mounting camels or camel husks. When we're getting on a horse, our arm swings a little bit, but getting on a camel, nothing. You can see the difference here. Within abstract horse, we're always returning different successes. Here in camel, we see this consume, which has side effects that we saw in the last episode as well. The last video ended really fast, and I do want to apologize for that. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and look out for a possible collaboration with another big Minecraft modder. Somebody did ask me to increase my font size in the last video, so I increased it. I think previously I could show 50 lines, but now I can only show 35. So if this is still too small, please let me know. Also let me know if I'm not going in depth enough, or if you feel like I'm going too fast over these, or if you feel like I'm going maybe too in-depth for some of them. Please leave a comment telling me what you would like to see. Another typo. Instantaneous. This, where it's like the entire thing, or they've used like the wrong spelling everywhere. I don't mean to hate on this at all. Probably another copy and paste thing. We have set width and set height, but they both have the exact same parameter name, which is width. They are setting the right value, width and height, just the wrong parameter name here. I'm not sure if this might cause a bug that shows up somewhere I haven't seen, but we do see an age minus age, which would always be 0. We got a video provided for this one, and notice they can jump just fine on land. You see their bar is going up while they're in the water. They try to do it a second time as well. Nothing's happening. They get on land and jump happen instantly. When they're being ridden, the jump pending scale is always being updated, but if they're not on the ground, that thing never executes, and it never resets if they're not on the ground either. If you want to see a couple more bugs, check out my last video on this topic, and if you want to set up this environment for yourself, I'll show you how to do it in this video.